and welcome back to our podcast. I'm the Disturbed Southern Belle.
And I'm the gentleman.
On this week's episode, we are going to be talking about some creepy Brazilian folklore.
Yay.
So there are some actually really creepy haunted tales and folklore that come from Brazil. They have some really interesting ones as well. So the first one is, and I'll do the best I can with the pronunciation, is the Boitata. So this legend, it comes from Brazil's native people, the Tupi people. And the name itself means serpent of fire or fiery thing, depending on the translation of the old Tupi language. So, but basically more or less the same thing. Something of fire, basically. Serpent or a fiery thing. So the most accepted translation is the serpent of fire translation, and it's most commonly portrayed as a fiery snake, most often. So according to the legend around it, there was once this long period of darkness when the sun did not shine and this deluge flooded the earth. Okay? So because of these severe conditions, it led to the death of many animals, and it forced the ones that survived to flee from their natural habitat. They couldn't stay because it was flooding.
Makes sense.
Right. So among these surviving animals was the displaced boi guaca, which was this giant cave anaconda. Because, why not, right? So when it emerged from this newly found lair that it had, because it got cut off from the rest of, where it was or whatever.
Yeah.
So it began to do what you would figure any cave anaconda would do. It began to go out and eat the eyes of the dead. So
as
there's all
cave
these
anacondas do,
right.
apparently.
Apparently there was a lot of dead things laying around.
Why the eyes?
Well, funny you should ask. It did this because they shone brightly in the darkness and made for tasty delicacies.
Well, all right then.
Well, ask a stupid question. I mean,
fair.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Exactly. So, as the snake began to eat more and more of these shiny, delicious eyes, it began to shine too, like the eyes that were shining in the darkness.
Got that slick coat.
There you go. But unfortunately, this new diet of eating only eyes quickly weakened it, and it soon after perished. Although this snake went out in a real blaze of glory, as they say. So, upon its death, all the light that it had collected from eating these eyeballs that were shining in the darkness,
sure,
it was released. All this light was released. And, of course, it quickly escaped. And where did it go? It went to the sun. So, the sun absorbed all that light, and the days of darkness were finally over. So, there you go. You were wondering.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
As we all know, eyes create their own light.
Well, there you go.
That's how come we're able to see.
I guess. I'm guessing it was probably like moonlight reflecting off. I have no clue, but apparently these were some shiny eyeballs.
Well,
anyway,
now, hold on. If it's moonlight, sure, the moon creates its own light then.
Sure, why not? So the snake spirit is said to inhabit the Amazon jungles to this day, and it's often said to appear at night, and most often appearing as nothing but two fiery glowing eyes.
Okay.
All right. There are some that say that it can breathe fire, and that it uses this ability to incinerate the people who harm the rainforest by chopping trees down or starting fires in the rainforest. So it breathes its fire on you and incinerates you if you come to the rainforest, causing trouble.
Hey. So it punishes those who set fires in the rainforest.
By setting them on fire.
Sure, by setting the rainforest on fire.
Yes, I don't know.
Unless the rainforest is just somehow magically safe from that
fire.
It
is. Sure. It's got magic fire, obviously. Some people even say that it can disguise itself as a tree trunk, and that it will show itself to an unsuspecting lumberjack that were trying to cut down this so-called tree, and then, of course, it'll just roast them alive. So, I mean, it's not funny because you imagine you're going out to cut down a tree, all of a sudden the trunk turns into this fiery serpent and just roasts you alive.
I just imagine, like, a tree trunk just suddenly growing a mouth. Like,
maybe.
for those who have seen, like, the really old cartoon movie
Right.
Monster House,
Mm-hmm.
like, just gaining a mouth, just kind of a gap in the tree, and then just spitting fire.
Right.
It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it looks like. It doesn't specify. But anyway, some associate it with the souls that are cursed for various reasons, and some legends even connect it with the fiery will-o'-the-wisp. Those, fiery balls, that's really more popular like in Ireland and Scotland and
Yeah.
places like that. But anyway, there's even some overlap from this legend of this evil black snake, and that is said to take on a variety of different forms. And it's also said to attack and devour people, and that it can use its flaming eyes to lead boats to their ruin. So kind of like a
Sure.
siren,
Yeah.
except its eyes are glowing and you're hypnotized and you have to follow it to the ruin. Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
Why not just follow this weird pair of glowing eyes?
Exactly. Why wouldn't you? I mean,
There's no possible way this could be anything dangerous, even remotely.
I can't foresee no danger ahead. All right. But anyway, the next one is the Boto Incarnato. So the Boto Incarnato is an enchanted Amazon river dolphin. Because what else would it be? So Botos...
Everyone knows those dolphins love their rivers.
Exactly. So the Boto are basically these river dolphins. And they are known for being fat, ugly, and loud in real life. So they're also big enough that they can capsize a small watercraft. So you can imagine you wouldn't want to see one pop up if you're out there canoeing your way along. One pop up beside you and, knock you over in the Amazon River or whatever. Not a good place to be.
Makes me think of sea lions.
Exactly.
I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's just a fat, ugly, and loud thing.
Maybe.
But
anyway, so in Brazilian folklore, it's said that the Botos can transform at night from the gruesome fish to handsome men.
So, mermaids.
Sorta-ish. So the only part of their body that they cannot transform is their blowhole, which they always manage to cover up with some sort of fashionable hat.
Sure.
Exactly. And this has led to this tradition where a woman will ask an unknown man to remove their hat to prove that they don't have a blowhole. And of course, where do they head out to? Well, of course, they have to go out to the local bars to try to seduce the women there. Because, what else would they be doing with their fashionable hats on? So, in addition, I don't know how people are not recognizing them anyway. I don't know why they'd have to take the hat off if you listen to how the rest of the way they're dressed. So, in addition to this hat that they're wearing, they're also seen wearing a sword, a fine belt, and white shoes. Now, here's the funny thing about these clothes. All of these things are river creatures themselves. So the hat is a stingray. The sword is an electric eel. The belt and shoes are different types of fish. But apparently he is smooth and nobody notices any of this. Can you imagine somebody with a stingray on their head and an electric eel on their hip?
Aside from this, even if they were dressed normally, who just walks around with a sword?
Exactly.
Who just walks into a bar with a sword?
Exactly. But anyway, so there are a few weird tales sort of back up their existence. So one story is that these two men showed up in town one night. And they spent the entire night getting drunk, carousing all around town, right? So at dawn, they just disappear, okay? So later that day, this fisherman, he catches two botos. And while he's cleaning them, he notices that they smell strongly of liquor.
Okay.
So was it the two men that just suddenly disappeared? Did they have to run back and,
it could just be a couple of fish.
It could be a couple of drunk fish. Who knows? We don't know.
I was going to say they just swam through some weirdly liquorified water.
There you go. Who knows? But anyway, lastly now, there was this other guy who was suspected of being a boto. So he was chased to the river, and when they caught him, they speared him 3 times, and his body fell back in the river and was washed away. So a few days later, they find a dead body with 3 harpoons stabbed into its body.
Okay, that's more reasonable than the first one.
And sometimes this legend is even used in the application of the case, let's say, of children who have an unknown father.
Okay.
So they will be called Filios de Bato, or the dolphin's children. So I guess that's to say that the dolphin man turned into a man, came and had a little child, and then went back and said, I'm going to go back and be a dolphin again, honey.
Sure.
So now you got a dolphin child, which
Hey,
makes me think of Paradise
deadbeat
PD.
dads.
Yeah, really. And that makes me think of Paradise PD, those little flipper arm.
Yeah, it's been forever since I saw that.
But yeah, anyway, so here are some legends of some just female hauntings, we'll say. So one legend is that of the bathroom blonde. Which, yeah, wouldn't you want to be known as this legend? So this legend says that there was this beautiful young blonde girl and that she was killed or possibly unalived herself in this bathroom. Now, it doesn't specify where this bathroom is, but because of this, her soul is now stuck there and she's doomed to spend the rest of her life scaring people at one of their most vulnerable times, we'll say.
Fair.
So, yeah, that would be a sucky place to get stuck, wouldn't it? The bathroom, but yeah. But anyway, so another legend that talks about another blonde woman who stands on the street and then she lures these men to give her a ride. So if they allow her into their car, she just immediately tries to murder them.
Well, all right then.
Right. So be very careful when you're picking up blonde women in Brazil, apparently.
I'd say just be careful when you're picking up hitchhikers in general.
Well, that's a good rule of thumb as well. So we can't have a ghost without talking about a white lady. We just can't. I mean,
apparently not. We can't go more than 2 episodes without one.
The white lady comes up. So Brazil has its most popular version of the white lady, which it tells the tale of this cobbler's daughter. And she was supposed to be this beautiful woman, and she was given in marriage to this wealthy plantation owner. Okay, so one day this plantation owner, he gets really upset with a woman because she had shown some kindness to one of his slaves. Now, I don't know exactly what she did. She was just kind to one of the slaves. So, of course, in retaliation, he has a completely normal response. He has the man killed and told her to either eat his flesh or starve to death.
Perfectly normal.
Exactly.
I was going to say it's starting to remind me of a book called Holes, but that took a turn.
My goodness. But anyway, so she opts to starve, and upon her death, she becomes a white lady and is supposed to haunt the area of her demise to this day. But my goodness, what a response this man had. Jeez. That's
a bit much.
It is over the top. Now, this one is creepy because it is 100% true. And it's freaky to think about. And that is the Island of the Snakes. Now, this is somewhere that is forbidden to go. You are not supposed to go here.
Why would you want to go with a name like the Island of Snakes?
I have no clue, but you know how some people are.
Yeah.
So, about 90 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, there's this small island. And it's listed as one of the most dangerous islands in the world. And it got its name due to the fact that it has an unbelievably high density of golden lancehead vipers.
It's just getting worse.
Now, some studies said that there are like 5 snakes for every square meter, or roughly every 10 feet square. There are 5 snakes. Jeez. That's how many snakes are on this little bitty island. Okay? Now, I mean, it's not teeny either, but still. That makes it even more horrifying. So this thing is just writhing with snakes.
It is still getting progressively worse.
So basically what happened was around 11,000 years ago, the sea levels rose. and it separated this island from the Brazilian mainland and made it this little tiny island, okay? So this led to these snakes becoming completely isolated on this small island. And these snakes became hyper-evolved to their changing environment. Now, this is where it kind of gets creepy and freaky. So, since there was no ground level prey on the island, there was nothing on the ground, these snakes figured out how to hunt in the treetops. So they'll basically hide there, and then they'll strike out and bite birds as they fly through the air, which is, holy crap, pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, now, since they wouldn't be able to, go track these birds down, or, if they got away or whatever, and of course they ain't got all day to wait for this, venom to finish them off, their venom has now become 5 times stronger than the snakes that are still on the Brazilian mainland.
Jesus.
So their venom is capable of killing the birds instantly, and it can even melt human flesh.
That's some pretty potent venom.
Yeah, so due to its potency, the Brazilian government has quite rightfully placed a ban on the public ever going there.
I mean, yeah, but beyond public safety, imagine the poisons that you could get from that.
Exactly.
That would probably take the #1 deadliest spot.
Oh, yeah. It is bad. But how quickly they evolved. They learned how to hunt those birds in the treetops, and then their venom became 5 times stronger so they could strike them and just instantly kill them so they could eat them.
That's just cool.
That is. And that's
I still say
crazy.
I still say it got progressively worse and worse throughout the story, but
right.
That's amazing.
It is, and it's crazy. So the next thing we're going to talk about is this haunted gravesite. So in 1990, people who visited the San Pedro Cemetery began to notice something very creepy. So this cemetery was actually at this time fairly new. It was started in roughly 1972, so it was like 18 years old. So it was built in the middle of this very busy city. So noise, of course, was something people expected to hear, street, whatever. So, but of course, instead of hearing these normal street sounds and things like that you would expect to hear, they begin to hear something very, very different. They begin to hear numerous cries of people screaming, moaning, and begging for help.
Well, all right then.
Yeah. Nothing creepy about that at all, right?
Perfectly average occurrence.
Yeah, any cemetery you go to, I mean, that's just part of it. So these reported cries seem to be coming from this specific grave, or rather grave site, we'll say. Because this particular grave was the site of a mass grave that held the bodies of 13 people. So they've been buried in this mass grave 2 years after the cemetery opened. So the caretaker of this cemetery, Luis Nunez, was desperate to stop the cries coming from the graves, which are from
understandably
the mass grave, I should say, one big grave. Well, yeah, really, right? Definitely, understandably. So he did the only thing that came to his mind, and I'm sure it would be the only thing that would come to our minds as well.
Human sacrifice.
No, he grabbed a watering can and dumped the water on the gravesite. Then, though, he did one more thing. He started thanking God, and then he went on to say that it finally quieted them. So he starts pouring this water out on it and thanking God, and that quieted them down finally.
So, to be fair, holy water is basically just water with a little extra faith in it.
More or less. I mean,
so
prayers and things that are, but yes.
From what I've heard, that basically all holy water is just water that people have prayed over and believe and have faith in to be holy water.
Right.
So, I don't know.
So, that's what he made. So, from then on, those who come back sometimes will still hear the cries coming out. So, instead of leaving a flower or anything on this grave, they leave glasses of water. Now, why they leave them in glasses? Because he poured it out. But anyway.
Maybe they're just thirsty.
Maybe so. That's kind of creepy, too, when you think about it. That people, literally, a whole bunch of different people could hear these people crying, screaming, begging. Oh, that's awful. So, the next one is the Jolma Building. So in 1975, over 486 people died in this fire that was at this building. Now, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
So this fire was said that it covered this 25-story building within 20 minutes.
All
So,
right then.
my goodness. So they didn't have a chance. I mean, that thing was racing. That's horrific. Now, it was said to be due to some kind of electrical issue, but after it was rebuilt and renamed, however, people still say that they can see the ghosts of the people who used to live there roaming or work around it and all that, roaming the halls and the different rooms. So that's kind of freaky. It's kind of sad. I mean, it's definitely sad. Absolutely. But yeah, it's awful. The next one is the Petropolis Museum. So the Petropolis Museum is also known as the Imperial Museum of Brazil. And it was built in the mid-19th century and is now known as one of the most haunted places in Brazil.
Okay then.
So, yeah, really. This museum was built within the palace of Emperor Dom Pedro II, and his ghost is said to still be trapped there and still haunts the museum to this day. And there have been several reports of people seeing his ghost roaming around after dark. So, kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird, too. You know, this was like part of his house. I mean, so this is actually part of his home. So that's makes more sense, I guess.
Yeah.
That's not just a museum or whatever. But anyway, the next one is called the Dream Beach. But apparently this one ain't no dream. So it is located in Sao Paulo, and Dream Beach is said to be the home of 2 ghosts that perished on the beach. So there have been several people that have reported seeing 2 decomposed figures appearing and then disappearing right before their eyes.
All right then.
I mean, could you
Fairly
imagine?
gross.
Yeah, that's fairly gross. I mean, you can see decomposed bodies just flashing up and then you blink, I guess, and they're gone. That would not mess with your mind at all.
No.
I mean, no. But anyway, the maintenance workers for the beach, they've also reported hearing like these disembodied voices and these weird noises coming from the beach, like at night especially. And when they go down, there's nobody, there's nothing. There's nobody there. So that's creepy. Now, who these people are, nobody's ever said, but that's creepy to just think about. The next one is the Brasilia City Hall. So this one, of course, is located in Brasilia. And the people who have worked here reported witnessing things like the slamming of cabinet doors, windows, and doors. And it said that it was once a mortuary and a very large number of bodies had been stored there over the years.
All right then.
Yeah, really. All this stuff's going on. So it also is another one that was weirdly burnt down. But ironically enough, when they built it back, apparently I don't think they had any more issues. But what is up with all these buildings just burning down? It seems kind of creepy too. But yeah, that one's weird too. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be who's haunting it or whatever, but a lot of people said they saw the same stuff. So who knows, right? So the last one we're going to talk about is called The Road to Petropolis from Rio de Janeiro. So some of the drivers who passed by the road to Petropolis from Rio de Janeiro have reported that they'll see this blonde-haired woman, standing on the corner with her hand up, like waving, like she's trying to flag you down, right? She's like, hey, come over here and help. So it's said if you stop and ask, what's the matter, she'll point over to this broken car and you'll see a body laying out beside it. And if you get out and you go over to the body to offer help, you'll look down and see that it was the woman who was flagging you down. Then all of a sudden everything will just disappear and you're just sitting there and nothing. No woman, nothing. You're yourself kneeling in the middle of the road. So,
interesting.
Very interesting. And it's very creepy to think of, too. Just flashing and then all of a sudden, you're like holding this dead, dying woman in your arm or whatever.
And then all of a sudden, just nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, it's creepy. Now, why all of them are blonde, I don't know. Apparently, the Brazilian people have something for the blonde women here.
Apparently
I don't know.
so.
But whatever, it's fine on that front anyway, but it's still interesting, and they have some really cool stories there. We hope you enjoyed those. We're going to pick a new country for next week. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and don't forget to
Stay disturbed.